Welcome, everyone. This is the initial Green Knight Prime YouTube podcast. And for the kickoff one, we're going to look at the Canadian elections coming up on April 28th. And with us today is Billy DeBacco of Destiny Cards and Astrology, my good friend, and Cynthia and Julia that are Canadians, and their interest is in this greatly. So they asked us to take a look and see what we could see. Now we're going to look first at what they call the Canada Dominion Act, where Canada was first created as a country or in the Commonwealth. That was July 1st, 1867. And I'm going to get a closer look at the chart here. Now, when I look at this chart, it's nice. It's a nice warm Cancer in the fourth house. You know, sun at the bottom of the chart. It's kind of cozy, but as we go through, in the first house, you know, there's a point of fortune, but then it's quickly followed by the dark moon. That's the X on the chart, and that's kind of where things can be victimized or play the victim. And also Pluto in the first house in Taurus. So there is something deeply emotionally unresolved with this chart as we move through. And we don't need to stop at every little point, but Uranus is exactly conjunct the sun. It's only off by 15 minutes. And then as we look up into the seventh house of relationships, that upside down looking W with the skag off the thing is actually the asteroid Lilith. And that can be some deep-seated, why are you not seeing me type of an energy. But then followed by Saturn and Scorpio in the seventh and the Neptune decan, kind of really limiting the relationships, in my opinion. What are the Canadians feeling about this deep inside? Or how does the world see them? Are they even really recognized? That's the feeling I get. And I come all the way around, and when we get to the 12th house, we're using Placidus, by the way, and we do have the correct times when these acts became official. The South Node in the 12th house in Pisces, barely conjunct Chiron, but almost exactly conjunct a solar eclipse. And then followed at the very end of the 12th house, we have Neptune. I mean, what was this dominion? It seems like it was never going to come to fruition. The way that a Cancer in the fourth house would want. Anyway, could we get some comments from, maybe we'll go to Billy first and then Cynthia and Julia, how they feel about how Canada was perceived initially, or how I kind of feel that this is kind of the heart of most Canadians even today. But Billy, and why don't you comment on this, and then we'll go to Cynthia and Julia.
What sticks out to me the most is Pluto in the first house opposing Saturn in the seventh house. Pluto deposits Scorpio where Saturn is. So that is a very, very limiting type of and deep-rooted issue when it comes to relationships between the government, the people, however you want to call it. But that's the biggest thing that stands out to me. That's huge. So any other comments?
Well, I kind of go with, the Neptune in the 12th house too. It's not as it appears. Right. So Cynthia and Julia, comments?
So Neptune in the 12th house, I think it's very interesting because Canada is always seen as, you know, the place to go, you know, it's like the place to be free. And, you know, even myself coming from, you know, my dad came here from China, right? So it's like, it was like the promised land. So it's very interesting to see that, that could have been just an illusion this whole time.
Okay, like that, Julia.
Yeah, I really think the Pluto Saturn is very interesting. That kind of tug of war with being seen as I think that, you know, for a long time, especially when I was growing up, it was Canada the good, you know. We were the good guys. We were the ones that a lot of other countries would throw our flag on their backpack when they went backpacking around the world because we were seen in a better light. But we weren't necessarily. We had a lot of things that were going on unseen and underneath that people just didn't look at and didn't want to look at, both at home and abroad.
Well, I can see that. The other thing that just jumped out at me is the sun and Uranus in the 4th house are in like a very tight trine with Jupiter. And that's in the 12th house, and it's in Pisces. And I know that Canada is often like seen as the good guy. It's the nice guys. Yeah. And I always thought of that too. I mean, when I was a child and close to the border, we could just drive over. Everything was just the same. Only the flag was different. I mean, but the people seemed to be all the same. We all got along. Yeah, but something was hidden. I think that Canada's resources have always been plundered. If you believe in a worldwide cabal, I think they had their eye on Canada the whole time. And, you know, with the Neptune in the 12th, I mean, you know, that can be spiritual. It can be the place to go for freedom. In fact, I had a friend years ago that said, well, I'm going to move to Alberta way up north. And so people will leave me alone. I mean, little did he know, but he saw it that way. So that's really interesting about this, like the initial Canadian chart. Now, people don't know this, and I didn't really know it too, but Canada really didn't get their like so-called independence, or, you know, I guess they were Commonwealth here, but maybe they're still Commonwealth. But in 1982, there was a thing called the Canada Act. And here's the chart for that. If hopefully you guys can see that. Okay. And so this is, I guess, when the Crown, out of the goodness of its heart, allowed to hear a petition for Canada's independence or something to that effect. I don't know the deals, but when I look at this chart, to me, I'm going to tell you, it feels like a dark magician settled on this day to give Canada their independence, so to speak. And when I look at this chart and I come down, the thing that just pops right out in my head is the 4th house down at the IC, in Libra. Then Mars, not a friend of Libra, wanting to tip the scales. Saturn. I mean, the two malefics right next to each other. And then Pluto, and then Jupiter in Scorpio, still in the 4th house. And we are using Placidus astrology. I find that to be, for me, the most accurate. but that Jupiter is debilitated, and it's in the Pluto decan of Scorpio. They just kind of it's kind of like a malefic expansion. It really feels like, oh, we're locking you down now. You think you're free, but we actually own more of you now than we did when you were under the Dominion Act. Now, one thing that's super interesting currently in this chart is the last solar eclipse was directly on the sun of this chart. So it's kind of like there's a new slide, there's a new piece of reality coming over this act now. And I think I have it with the when the election comes up, we'll look at it over the Dominion Act and the Canada Act. Again, the 1867 and the 1982. Also kind of a North Node 12th house here, and it's like we're coming to the end. What's, why is it here? Why is the South Node in the 12th house? And these times are correct. These are the times, it was at noonday that this act became official. So I think using Placidus's wisdom in this. Billy, do you have a comment about the chart?
Yeah, I'm looking. I mean, there's some good aspects there with the sun in the 10th on the MC, trining the moon, which will give the flow to the people, the soul and the emotions of the people. And then I do see that in that 4th house opposing the sun, we have Mars, we have Saturn, and Saturn is exalted down in Libra. It's a very powerful Saturn there. And, with Pluto also there's some deep subconscious issues and restrictions with family and home life. So where the sun sits, it's sort of like saying, "Oh, we're shining on you," and then the home of the country sees a lot of internal strife there. Well, like you said, Jupiter is not going to be expansive there, especially in the Pluto decan, and only about 8 degrees off from Pluto, 6 degrees, whatever it is. I'm sorry, but that's true what you said about Jupiter sitting there in the Pluto decan. It's really not going to be able to expand much of the home and the family and where people seek comfort. So
right, almost a block to it.
Correct.
Now Julia could remember this. Cynthia might not remember this time, but what do you guys remember about this time in our country? Because I think this was about the time that we had to start showing passports to drive over the border, and Canada suddenly became a different country. Because I tell you, I mean, the U.S. down there, I was 20 at that time. Canada was. I mean, I don't want to go and say the 51st state, but it felt like it was us. It felt like the U.S. when we went to visit.
Yeah, so, I think we were still just showing our birth certificate. Like we did have to show something going over the border, but I don't think it was passports yet. Passports came in 9/11. That's when we started to do that. Up until then, it was pretty free to go back and forth. The traffic.
Well, and how was it in Canada? Do you guys feel like you were getting more identity, or you felt like it was just the big toe of the government stepping on you more?
I don't think it was a feeling of the government stepping on us more. I think it was more about not having to wait on the British to agree with what changes we wanted to make.
Okay.
So kind of saw it as a good thing, but it wasn't working out at home. Like this actually, there was a lot of anger around it at home, mostly Quebec, from Quebec. I remember that tension, and they felt that that they would lose their identity through this. But there is also the thing. So you've got the sun opposing, like attached to your midheaven and opposing Mars, but you also have the moon and Uranus are opposite.
Correct.
So
And I hadn't brought that up yet, but
yeah,
you know, that moon in the 11th house is about the people and the feel good.
Exactly.
And in Gemini, the environment. So, and trining the sun, it's supposed to be a good flow. But
it is, but then with that opposition, you get that, that
right.
tug of war. It didn't quite pan out the way.
Right, the flip.
And I think it was a bit of a surprise when there was that that tension.
Correct.
Now, you guys said that this was like, there was like a 5-year tension span, and then there was like, you said it was the Meech Lake Act that was like, that secured your rights and freedoms.
Yeah.
Or so, and we have that.
And even that, I mean, they tried many times. That one was the one that actually got through, but from the time that this was signed until the Meech Lake Accord, they tried many times and couldn't find resolution. Yeah.
So yeah, and and I can maybe relate to that. The Constitution, 1787, but it really didn't get ratified to 1789 for the U.S. Bill of Rights, no Bill of Rights. You're going to give the government all this power, and you're not going to secure the rights. So kind of the fight for like Canada's Bill of Rights, even.
Yeah,
Let me see.
But Canadians are also like, I think Canadians have become a lot more politically minded definitely over the last 5 years.
Correct.
But they're notoriously poor at it. So all of this stuff would happen.
A couple of videos after it to follow up on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I had one more thing to post to you on that last chart, the previous chart. I wanted you to give comments. Saturn was squaring the nodes from the 4th house.
Mm.
I wanted you to.
They were locked in the middle.
Correct.
They really had almost nowhere to go. Yeah, good pickup there. It's nice to have somebody who can see the aspects that I'm like blatantly missing.
No, you're not. Listen, you got everything in front of you. So
sorry, go on.
No, go ahead, Cynthia.
No, what I was going to say is I can't comment much because I literally came when this happened, so I have no clue what it was like before. I was born in it. I mean, the only thing that I can say is what's interesting is because Julia was talking about like it's always Quebec, right? Quebec didn't want to sign off, and as someone who grew up in Quebec, I do remember how having that divide between people that wanted to separate from Canada and people that like wanted to stay in Canada. So I did grow up in that kind of environment, and especially like, my dad Chinese, my mom French Canadian. So I do have sides of the family that are like, well, I'm a Quebecer, and then you have other people that's like, well, I'm Canadian. So I guess you could say I felt it from that standpoint, but I wouldn't know like what Canada was like before 1982.
Yeah.
Okay, well, get a load of this chart here. Okay, this is the Meech Lake Accord. It's a sun opposed Pluto.
Yeah.
Like in a pretty darn tight orb.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's kind of like, oh, yeah, you think you got your rights. The elites kept the rights. And I don't know. It looks to me like it was bred in circuses. It was weird. Yes, you have your rights. Don't
Yeah.
ask any questions.
Yeah.
No, don't.
I don't even know if we need to look at anything else on this chart. I
Well,
mean, the North Node conjunct Jupiter in the 9th. Yes, I believe we're celebrating. We have our rights. Sun opposed Pluto. Just wait a minute.
yeah, just wait 2 minutes. It'll be good. I mean, with Neptune there, you know, in the Saturn decan of Capricorn, over up to the, it's making a good trine to the sun. So we're thinking about our spirituality here. We're bringing it all onto the people, but you know,
Yeah,
again,
right. Well, yeah, and
it is
you know,
working.
delusion, illusion, spirituality. Take your
Correct.
pick. Now, the
Correct.
other thing I just noticed on this, Billy, is that the dark moon and the moon are again like conjunct
I see
in
that.
the 11th house.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the victim is the people.
Again, yes. And isn't it funny? The moon's been in the 11th house a few times here. I wonder what they were looking at. Oh, it's a good time. Oh, they know. They
Well,
know.
yeah. We'll let them think that it's like all about them.
It's
And Chiron up there and Mars. Yeah, boy. Okay. So that's interesting. So we have the act and whatever. So let's look at the actual election day. I think I want to get to another chart first. Okay, here's just the chart of the election, the transits on the election, starting in Halifax. And I did one at the end, but the only thing that really changes is that there is a very significant moon transit that happens on this chart. But look at this one. Saturn just crossed the North Node.
Yes.
It's still conjunct Venus. It could still be considered conjunct Neptune. And those are the things right after the last solar eclipse at 9 degrees, the one that just happened the end of last month. You know, and then so moon at 17 Taurus, that's good. The moon's exalted in Taurus in the earlier degrees. Later on, it becomes kind of gluttonous and greedy, in my opinion. But it's transiting and it will finish over where Uranus is there. I think it finishes at 28 or 29 degrees, might be on the cusp of Gemini. And when the votes are finished being counting and they're probably making the official announcement the next day, we're looking at a debilitated moon in Gemini. So I'm wondering that it kind of begins, I think it begins good. I don't think it ends good. Now let me click on the election over the Canada Act, because this is really, I feel, the relevant chart to look at, the act, the 1982 act rather than the 1867 act. About what's going on. I think this is the gist here. And call your attention to the 11th house again.
Yeah.
Okay. Where the moon is. Canada's moon always in the 11th house. Seems like.
It just seems that way. It's rolling that way.
Okay, it starts good. Look at transit first, Selena, the guardian angel. But then it goes right on to Chiron, just right when like Quebec and Ontario are starting to vote, right where the liberal breadbasket is. And then so there's kind of a pain. There's like, oh, we have Canada has to keep our identity. Bad Trump. We're not the 51st state. We're our own people. And if the conservatives get in, they're just going to sell us out to the U.S. We want to keep the tariffs, kind of a stuff. It kind of painful thinking. So the moon goes over the axe Chiron, and then it ends up transiting Uranus at 26 degrees. That also happens to be right on top of the fixed star Algol, which is the demon star, it's 2.5 days it shines, 2.5 days it's dark. It's really kind of the manic depressive. I don't know. I don't have a schedule of when Algol's dark. I know Algol intimately because it happens to be conjunct my natal Mercury. So I know how it acts. But that moon transiting Uranus and over Algol and then finishing up near the Gemini moon of the act chart, to me, there is some huge deception going on with this election. It could be the media in the ninth house, like working on people's beliefs, in a hard way, because it's 1 degrees Aries right there. So it's really kind of somebody's fuming somewhere. And I think it's somebody saying, there's no way I'm losing this election. So we're going to do whatever it takes to win. And I think that it's not, I'm wanting the conservatives to win. But I'm pretty much sure that you're kind of in for what we had down here in 2020 going on up there. I sure hope it's the other way. But I think with that Neptune burning right there, Chiron at the top of the chart, the act having an eclipse sun, fighting hard. You're not changing our destiny. And that moon transiting Selena, Chiron, Algol, and Uranus before the election is done. Whatever comes out the next day is going to be a lie. And it'll probably be an exposed lie, is what I'm feeling. And I could be totally wrong. I don't have some great track record as a predictive astrologer, but my feeling here is just that no matter what happens, nobody is happy, and the argument gets fierce. So, Billy, do you want to go?
Well, I mean, with the transits alone that day, we got Mars, of course, opposing Pluto in the transits. But on the chart on the inside, we have Mercury in Pisces conjunct the North Node. So the thought process, it's very confusing what's going to happen. That's Pisces on their chart, and then the transits on the outside. So yeah, that node conjunct the Canadians' Mercury in Pisces. Yeah, it's not a good placement for Mercury, especially in the ninth in Pisces. So and when people vote, you got Saturn conjunct Venus in the transits. Be responsible what you vote for. I mean, we got Venus, things you create and love. Saturn saying you better be responsible or it's not going to turn out very well. That's what the transits on today.
Neptune will burn you down.
Exactly.
And then if you look down at the bottom of the south node of the transits, it's like conjunct the transiting solar eclipse. You know, it's kind of like there's no place like home, but home isn't there anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Pluto Mars opposition is tough. So this is kind of like the people versus the government of the Canada Act.
Right.
And Cynthia or Julia, do you want to talk about this? And then we'll look at the election versus the Dominion action of 1867, because I think that's more of the consciousness of how Canadians that aren't particularly aware of the stuff in politics feel. But go ahead and speak on this one.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that, the sun opposing, like the transiting sun opposing that Jupiter in the 4th house.
Very good eye.
Yep.
And neither of them are happy.
No, I mean that it's a slow Jupiter, right? It's retrograde.
Right, and it's going to have
Scorpio.
a low score in Scorpio, and that sun right there with the transits is going to have a low score too. You can have a sun in Taurus with a decent score, but not with this chart.
Yeah, and it's a new moon too. So like even the moon doesn't really have its light.
Right, it's a new moon, and which actually
it has potential, but it doesn't have, it has no roots.
Yeah, it's not really aspecting anything very positively.
No.
And it is, like I say, it's initiation moon going over the guardian angel, Chiron, Uranus, and Algol before it's done.
Yeah.
So I have a question about Algol, just because I'm trying to, find positive. What if it is the light days of Algol? Would that potentially tip the scales?
I would,
I'm trying to find the savior.
Well, I mean, you asked the right person. What is Algol like? And my Mercury is on Algol on my IC. My IC has never turned out to be what I hoped it would be. So even though Algol does have the 2 days of light, I mean, is it the 2 days of dark that are good because that's when the demon eye isn't looking at you? Or is it the 2.5 days of Algol, light, and then that's when the demon's looking at you? I don't know. I just know that whatever happens is usually not what you hoped. And me personally, I'm on a Uranus square over my Mercury and Algol right now. So maybe it takes a Uranus square to make Algol turn around. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
It depends on how it's blinking. It depends how it's blinking.
Depends how it's blinking.
Exactly. But again, with that chart, with Saturn squaring the nodes, it just doesn't feel. It feels off. It feels restrictive. That's to me. I don't know. That's my look at it. Yep.
Right. I mean, I just get in my gut. There is an impetus for change, but it's not going to be enough. to put the conservatives in a majority or in a place where they can leverage a meaningful majority to actually make any kind of a change. And notice, people, we're not even looking at the so-called candidates, Carney and Polvier or whatever. I don't even think they really matter. I think that you could just pick out one globalist, put them in, pick out another conservative, put them in. I don't think their power of personality has any bearing on this election at all. It doesn't matter who's running. What's going to happen is going to happen. I mean, it's really kind of like our last election down here. What's going to happen is going to happen. So let's look at the Dominion and the election. Oh, that's the 2021 election. That was not a very good time for Canada's consciousness. Okay, so here we go. The beginning of the election. 25. Okay, the transits and going over the Dominion chart. And all I'm seeing is Mercury on Neptune there in the 12th house. It's kind of like maybe Canadians realize, oh gosh, did we really vote in the Liberals again? And now Mercury's giving us the message, you've done it again, you're locked up, not enough people voted. The eclipse is in the 12th house. Venus on Chiron. I mean, the Saturn on Chiron. It looks like a lot of pain at the end for the normie Canadian citizens. Billy, Cynthia, Julia, what do you think?
I'm taking this in here. This is actually the first time I've seen these together, but go ahead, Julia. See what you could go ahead and speak your piece on that one.
Again, I'm always trying to find the opposites where you have that little bit of tug of war going on. And you've got the transiting midheaven pulling at that Sun-Uranus conjunction. Bringing it, I mean,
it's in conjunct, actually.
Yeah. It is.
Oh, yeah.
And Pluto right there. I'll tell you
Yeah,
what.
in conjunct, so that we're blindsided by something.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, nobody's happy at the end of this election. If the conservatives
like the last one,
win, maybe it's like a one-house majority, but they won't win. They'll have to deal with whatever that mid party you guys have up there, because I guess you have like 3 blocks. You got the conservatives, liberals, and the rhinos, we would call them.
the NDPs.
And
yeah,
the block also gets like a
And the Quebec has the block.
bag.
So we have 4 technically, which is kind of hilarious that you have a whole federal party that really just wants to leave Canada, but they have federal pull.
okay.
I know they're not conjunct, not yet, but they're in the same signs. We have nodal flips going on there also.
Oh, yeah, there's a big change.
Oh,
Good
good catch.
Saturn and Chiron too, right?
And the dark moon and the black moon in the 7th house.
Yeah.
And the vertex there.
Yep. From the 6th to the 12th. Yeah. So.
It's kind of like, oh, here we are victimized again in our relationship.
Exactly.
Saturn.
Feel for us people.
Well, I know. It's just that nodal flip. It's which way we really going. We want to go this way,
Yeah.
but it's forcing us to go the other way. So, again, you think and I think what's going to happen in the election, but again, maybe the good will shine. But I don't think, from looking at everything else, I don't think so either. Because what's going to happen is going to happen. As Ronnie said, doesn't matter who's running. The stars are speaking. The planets are speaking.
And that transiting moon is right with Pluto in the first house.
Oh,
Yep.
Very good. Yeah, Moon, Pluto.
Yeah. Always these like big planets with the sun and moon. We don't got it easy.
No. Not at
The
all.
illusion was that we did.
Hmm?
The illusion was that we did.
Yeah.
Right.
Canada
Mercury's cracking that Neptune.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Mercury's telling Neptune the illusion's over.
Yep.
Welcome to Chiron. Right there.
Yeah.
On Psyche.
With Venus.
And recently,
Venus.
Yeah.
But maybe, Chiron will be the alchemist in the end.
Yeah, we can probably start to wrap this up. I mean, my feeling is really it's the election over the Canada Act chart and the way that moon transits all those things that's just going to cause pain, uncertainty, and we're just doing the same thing that we always have done. And I'm also I'm gonna predict this right now. I think the day after whatever is announced, Alberta begins the petition. No matter how the election ends, they're gonna try to petition. And we can do another show on that. I kind of look forward to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, out there in YouTube land, thank you for joining us to the initial Green Knight Prime podcast.
Thanks for inviting.
And, you can go to TheGreenKnightPrime.com and send me a message, request a reading, or just send an email to TheGreenKnightPrime.com or TheGreenKnightPrime@gmail.com and request a reading. I have reasonable prices, and I look at several modalities to do things. But I'd like to thank Billy, my friend, Destiny Cards and Astrology, Cynthia Lee, my friend, and Julia Allen, my friend, up there, suffering the buffetings of the Astro in Canada right now.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Wish us luck.
Thank you. And we'll sign off right now.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.